Today we are going to be talking about Cavalry and what your investment guide should look like in terms of Cavalry in 2023. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the best Cavalry commanders in the game right now, and then also pairings that you can do that are going to be the best pairings up to 3 different marches for Cavalry in the open field. We're not going to be talking about rally leads or garrisons today. We are just going to be talking about open field fighting in terms of Cavalry and what your best marches are going to be for Cavalry in 2023 in the late game. So this is going to be for Season of Conquest and beyond. So right now that is KVK 3 and beyond, now that you are able to use these commanders in KVK 3. So first we want to talk about what are the best Cavalry commanders in the game. And I think it's pretty obvious there are 2 right now that are by far the best in the game, and that is Nevsky and Joan Prime. These are 2 of the best commanders in the game, not just for Cavalry, but total in the game. These are 2 of the best commanders. And so that brings us to our first march. If we are only running 1 Cavalry march in the field, it is 100,000% going to be Nevsky primary, Joan secondary. This is by far the best march in the game for Cavalry, and potentially even in general, best march in the game for the open field. This is one of the strongest marches, and like I said, the number 1 pick for your Cavalry if you are just running 1 Cavalry march in the open field. And the nice thing about Cavalry is that it has a lot of depth. You have a lot of different commanders that you can run in the open field, and you are able to run a lot more marches. But like I said, today we are just going over 3 marches. So next we are going to be talking about the top 2 marches if you are only running Cavalry. And so the number 1 march, like I said before, is still going to be Nevsky and Joan Prime. So we are still going to be running Nevsky Joan. We are not going to break this up because this is just, it's like bread and butter. You can't get any better than this. So we're going to stick our Nevsky with our Joan. We're going to keep that duo. And the second march we are going to use, we have a couple different options. And so I'm going to give you a couple different options here that you can consider with 2 Cavalry marches. So the second march you could consider would be either Saladin and William or XY and William. This is what I would do as your second Cavalry march if you are running more than 1. And the reason why is because William is just such an amazing commander. And that's why you could really pair him with XY or with Saladin, because William is just an insane commander. He has so many debuff abilities. He has AoE. Even though it's small, he still has AoE. And you don't have to expertise him either. You can have him at 5-5-5-1 and he is still amazing. So having the William as a secondary, you can pair with either XY or with Saladin, and either one is going to be really, really good. Obviously, the XY is going to be a little bit better for the open field because he also has AoE and he does a little more damage. But the Saladin, if you only have Saladin available for that, it is still a great march. When it comes to 3 marches, you have a little more viability with different commander choices. So you could break up your Nevsky and your Joan. And the way I would recommend doing this would be going with Attila Nevsky for a little bit of tankiness, and then running XY and Joan of Arc Prime. And the reason why you want to break those up is because, you get the double AoE from the XY and Joan, and you also have the tankiness on Attila. You can hide your Nevsky behind the Attila and just absolutely wreak havoc on the field. And then for that third march, you would run Saladin and William. And this would be your 3 marches, but I have an additional 3 march lineup here that we can go over as well. And that is going to be Nevsky with Joan Prime, either XY with William or Saladin and William, and then Attila and Takeda. And I think this one is probably just as good, if not maybe a little bit better than that first option, mainly because you keep your Nevsky and your Joan together, which is, like I said, one of the strongest marches in the game. You keep that XY with William or that Saladin with William, and then Attila Takeda. It's not an amazing march, but it will trade very, very well. So you have that ability with Attila Takeda as well. But like I said, if you're really just trying to throw as much punch as possible in AoE and just in general with the open field, I would probably stay clear of Attila Takeda and probably try to mix up the Joan and the Nevsky, with running XY Joan and then Attila Nevsky. That's how I would do it. But if you are just trying to trade as best as possible and you are trying to get as many kills as possible, then throwing Attila Takeda in there, keeping Nevsky Joan together, and then running that XY William is going to run really, really well for the open field. But like I said, if you're focusing more on the AoE, the debuffing, and those kind of pairings, then I would probably throw Attila Takeda out of the window and focus more on mixing up your top commander choices for the open field in order to do the best for your murder ball and help your kingdom out the most. And then one thing we really have to consider with cavalry is that we are going to see new cavalry coming soon. So that is going to be the biggest thing I want to talk about right now, is that I would hold off on any cavalry investments unless it is Nevsky and Joan. This is a big warning, because if you don't have Nevsky Joan finished, and maybe you're trying to finish Attila Takeda, I would highly recommend you do not invest into Attila or Takeda, or any cavalry commander for that matter, unless it is Nevsky Joan. Because Nevsky Joan are going to be the only two commanders that we are guaranteed, absolutely guaranteed, to still be relevant after the new cavalry commanders come out. Because obviously, with the new addition to Zhuge Liang, we are going to see the best cavalry commander in the game. I think the next cavalry commander is going to be better than Nevsky. Going to be better than Joan. Going to be better than Zhuge Liang. Because they have to be. Because Zhuge Liang is beating Nevsky Joan. And that is not normal. And so they need to add something that's going to top Zhuge Liang and top Nevsky and top Joan. Because right now, Nevsky can't even beat Zhuge. And so the next cavalry is going to be even better than Nevsky. And my hypothesis is that we are going to have a new XY. I think the new cavalry commander is going to completely replace XY and just basically be XY on steroids. And XY was already an amazing commander when he came out. He was like, for a couple months, he was the best commander in the game, in my opinion. But then obviously more commanders came out, and he kind of fell further and further down the depth chart. He's still a good commander, but he's just not as good as the newer commanders like Nevsky or like Joan. But like I said before, we are most likely going to see a new cavalry commander that completely destroys XY and takes him off the field entirely. And the reason why, like I said, is to combat Zhuge Liang, because the balance of the open field is not right now, because it's supposed to be like a rock, paper, scissors matchup where, you know, cavalry beat archers, archers beat infantry, and infantry beats cavalry. That's kind of how it's supposed to work. But right now it's not working like that. And it should work like that. That's how it's supposed to work. But right now, with the addition of Zhuge, he's just too strong. And so they have to throw a new cavalry commander that's going to be even stronger. And so that's one thing I want to warn you about, is to hold off on your cavalry investments unless you are investing into Nevsky or to Joan Prime, because those are the only two commanders that you could even consider investing into right now for cavalry. But like I said before, if you have them finished up, I would probably still wait for the new cavalry commander to come out. I would at least hold off until then, unless you have like an absurd amount of gold heads and you have like 1,500, 200, 2,000 gold heads. Then you might be able to consider throwing some of the gold heads into another commander until then. But for right now, I would probably just hold off until we see the new cavalry commander and just stick with the current marches that I just suggested. So like I said before, for the 3 March, we're going to go with Nevsky Joan. We're going to go with XY William and Attila Takeda, or we can go Attila Nevsky, XY Joan, and then Saladin and William. So those are going to be the different options you have for the 3 March murder ball. For the 2 March, like I said before, XY William or Saladin William, and then Nevsky Joan. For the 1 March, we are going to stick with Nevsky Joan. Those are the top 3, top 2, and number 1 cavalry marches in the open field in 2023. If you guys enjoyed this video, please drop a like and subscribe. Make sure you guys stay tuned for future videos. Again, thank you guys for checking out the video.